All right, let's dive into a story that honestly sounds like it was ripped straight out of a Hollywood script. We're talking about a military operation so unbelievable, so audacious, that even the experts call it a true operational miracle. So, how did they pull off the impossible? Let's break it down.
I mean, just listen to this. A former Special Forces operator said this is the kind of thing you see in the movies, but that the real-world odds of it actually working are incredibly low. When someone with that kind of experience says something like that, you know we're looking at something absolutely extraordinary. This really sets the stage for the story we're about to get into.
Now here's the absolute key to understanding this whole miracle. You have to realize this wasn't just one rescue mission. Nope. We are actually talking about two completely separate, incredibly complex, and totally different operations that had to happen back to back.
And this slide just lays it all out crystal clear. On one side, you have the pilot's rescue. It was immediate, right over the crash site, and it was I'll say a standard combat search and rescue mission, though still incredibly dangerous. But on the other side, the navigator's rescue. This was delayed by hours, happened kilometers away, and it required a whole different level of special operations. This split is what made everything so unbelievably difficult.
So where does a double crisis like this even begin? It all started in a single violent instant, the moment the crew had to eject from their F-15E fighter jet after taking a missile hit. That one split-second decision is what kicked this entire incredible chain of events into motion. You know, it's hard to even wrap your head around what an ejection is actually like. Pilots describe it as having a small bomb literally go off right under your seat. The force is so violent, so shocking, that it's pretty common for people to get knocked unconscious. And that is exactly what happened to one of the crewmen, which created a time gap that changed everything.
And this timeline, wow. It really shows you just how fast their situations split into two completely different realities. I mean, within 2 minutes, the pilot is on the ground near the crash and has been found. But the navigator, he lands miles away, injured, and it takes him hours just to wake up and call for help. By that point, any chance for a simple rescue was gone. The window had slammed shut and the enemy was already on the hunt.
Okay, so let's tackle that first mission, rescuing the pilot. On the surface, this was a textbook operation in a lot of ways. It was fast, it was direct. But as you're about to see, even textbook came with a very, very steep price.
So the team that went in for the pilot is the CSAR team. That stands for Combat Search and Rescue. And these folks are the pros. They're already in the air, on standby, waiting for exactly this type of emergency. It's actually a non-negotiable for modern air campaigns. You do not send your pilots into harm's way without a plan already in motion to get them out. But you know, simpler doesn't mean easy, not even close. Just look at the cost of getting that one pilot out. The rescue team took heavy fire. In the end, one of their A-10 Thunderbolt support jets was hit so badly its own pilot had to eject, and a Black Hawk helicopter was all but destroyed. So yes, they saved the pilot, but they lost one aircraft and nearly lost another to do it.
All right, now we pivot to that second rescue, and this is where things go from just dangerous to nearly impossible. The navigator is alone, he's hurt, he's deep behind enemy lines, and the whole situation has turned into what one expert perfectly called a mouse and a cat race against thousands of enemy soldiers. And you might be asking, why risk so much for one person? Well, this wasn't just any crewman. He was a colonel, a high-ranking officer. He knew critical details about the entire war effort. His capture wouldn't just be bad. It would be a catastrophic intelligence loss and a massive propaganda victory for the enemy. The stakes could not have been higher. And to really feel the pressure here, you have to get a sense of the scale. While a rescue was being planned, there were literally thousands of enemy troops. We're talking IRGC and Bajij forces, on the ground, actively hunting for him. It was one man versus an army. The odds were just staggering.
So, a standard CSAR mission is completely off the table. It's impossible. What do? Well, you call on the cavalry. The problem was handed over to America's most secretive, most elite forces, JSOC, the Joint Special Operations Command. And they needed a plan that wasn't just good, it had to be absolutely audacious.
And let's be clear about who we're talking about here. JSOC is the command that runs the absolute tip of the spear. These are the units that handle the missions you almost never hear about. Think DevGRU, also known as SEAL Team 6, and Delta Force. When a problem seems completely unsolvable, it lands on their desk.
So what was their crazy, out-of-the-box plan? Get this.
They decided to fly massive C-130 cargo planes deep, and I mean deep, behind enemy lines, land them in the dark, set up a temporary base right there on the ground. Then they would roll 4 tiny little bird helicopters out of the back of the C-130s, launch them, fly to the navigator's hiding spot, snatch him off a ridge, and then pack everything up and vanish into the night before anyone knew they were there. It's just unbelievable.
I mean, think about the genius of this strategy. You're using this absolute workhorse, the giant C-130, as a Trojan horse to carry the entire mission force hundreds of miles. And then for the final piece, you deploy this tiny surgical tool, the agile MH-6 Little Bird, which looks more like a taxi than a military helicopter, to perform the delicate extraction. It's a perfect combination of brute force and surgical precision.
You know, this mission was about more than just an incredible tactical success. It held a really deep historical meaning. For the U.S. military, this was symbolic. It was a kind of closure, a powerful and positive contrast to the famously tragic, failed hostage rescue attempt in Iran way back in 1980. This time, against all odds, they got it right.
And that really brings us to our final thought here. When an operation this successful is still described by experts as a miracle, what does that really tell us about modern warfare? I think it reveals the razor-thin line these operators walk between triumph and tragedy, and it shows us the incredible human and technological capabilities that are constantly pushing the very boundaries of what is possible. It's definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining us.